Hello everyone, my name is Michael and I am talking to you from the verse. If you are not sure what the verse is, I invite you to go to my website at rewritingtheverse.com, and there you can find all the information that I'm aware of about the verse. And there's a lot of written and video updates on there as well. Everything I've recorded for YouTube is on there, so it's a great place to get caught up on information, and especially you may want to review the past life regression I did just yesterday on December 8th, 2019. And this is actually a live past life regression to follow up with that one because, well, there's more to do about it, more to heal. So in some way this may be shorter because we've already fleshed out some parts of information about the scenario. Then I can catch you up really quick based on that past life regression. And then we'll see where we're led from there. For those that haven't seen any of my previous videos, I am a past life regressionist, and I also have the ability to rewrite the outcomes. So if it's warranted at the end, we can look for an alternate outcome to put in place and replace that timeline, so it will not only heal back at the original time, but it'll also affect right now. Now, that past life regression that I did yesterday was directly connected to the 12/12 portal that's coming up in just a couple days. And the highlights were that a group of Native Americans made a cross-country trip. This was about 200 BC. I believe that they were from the Blackfeet tribe, which is somewhere, at least right now, they're somewhere over in Montana, I believe, and southern Alberta, Canada. And I think they were basically in that area back then as well. And they were called to a spiritual gathering that happened actually where Boston, Massachusetts is right now. They traveled all that way, mostly on foot, to attend what ended up being a huge opportunity for a portal to open up. And similar, whatever's going on this 12/12, something similar was happening then. And they, unfortunately, despite their best efforts and despite having millions of people show up for this gathering as well as across the world, and working in tandem with beings from elsewhere, beings that were connected to the various tribes in some form or another, despite all their efforts, they were not able to meet the critical mass to be able to anchor in what they had gone there to do, which ultimately was a portal to bring in joy to the planet at an enormous level. Now, because I can rewrite past lives, I did go ahead and rewrite that yesterday when I recorded it. So it has been healed. We have cleared that particular portal already. But I'm getting a very strong guidance to do this additional update because there's something more that needs to be healed about it. Now, during that video, I identified the idea, of critical mass and the idea of the 100th monkey syndrome, I think it's called. You can look it up online. And what my feeling is that it's a true phenomenon. It's a controversial issue whether or not whatever they did to prove it before really happened, but I believe there is such a thing as a critical mass that's needed to shift an entire collective. There has to be a certain percentage of the population that's already aligned with it. So they didn't have enough critical mass. They were so close. They could actually see the orb that represented the joy that was about to be anchored into the planet, but they didn't have quite enough. And so we didn't clear that portal, and that apparently needed to happen for what's coming up on 12/12. So that's kind of a catch-up. But one of the things, this group, there were 11 men that started out on the journey from, I'm going to say, northern Montana. And by the time they got to Massachusetts, there were only 10. One of them had passed during the journey. And so they had lost one of them. What I now know is that that was the 100th monkey. That man in particular was so high vibrating and so connected to what was going to happen over there that he ultimately made the difference by not being there. And I believe we're supposed to get him there. Now, somebody has come forward and offered that they may indeed be that 100th monkey, and I absolutely believe they are. At least not, didn't make it there, so they'll be the 100th monkey by the end of this past life regression rewrite, is what I'm getting. So hopefully they'll watch this, but if they don't, thanks again for your service. Thanks for believing. Thanks for actually being the main one from that tribe that was helping to bring in such a massive change to the planet. So, again, referencing that first past life, what I saw in the beginning was there was a meeting. Apparently there were 10 of them in the meeting talking about, we have to go now, we have to get on the road if we're going to make it a year or however long it was going to take them to walk that entire way. They needed to get on the road. But when they left their camp, left their families, there were 11 people. And my understanding is the 11th person was, I don't have a name for him yet. I don't want to call him the 100th monkey, but this is the man that was meant to be the 100th monkey, okay? The reason he wasn't at that meeting is that he was very elderly, not in good health. So the idea of him making a cross-country trek was, not a good idea for his health, but he had been talking for decades about this upcoming event. He knew, before anybody else, at least in that particular tribe, knew what was coming and was so excited and joyous about it, because that's what that portal was about, anchoring joy at a whole nother level into the planet. He really was probably very close to this guy over here as far as being the happy Buddha already, knowing that it was coming. So there was no way he was going to get left behind. which was fine. All the men agreed that he needed to be there if at all possible. This was his big day, his moment, most likely his purpose in being incarnate, actually. So they did take one horse, was what I got. They did take one horse because most of the time he needed to be riding the horse to be able to keep up with the men. But all the rest of them walked this entire way across country. We also in the past life saw that they crossed the Mississippi, so we knew that they had gotten that far. But about a week ago, prior to me knowing any of this, I'd gotten a real strong message connected to Cleveland, Ohio. And when I looked at the map, it would be exactly where they would be traveling through to try to go south of the Great Lakes. And then ultimately their destination was Boston, Massachusetts, or again, where Boston is now. So that's where we're going to start this past life regression now. I've already gotten all that information, but I did not open it up any further to find out. Ultimately, I think we need to see what happened to him, why he passed in that moment, how he passed, whatever needs to happen, so that we can heal this man, heal his heart, because I know that probably his last moments were just about coming so close. He had told people he wasn't going to die until that, and he was, I think, about 80, 85 years old, and at that time that definitely was very old. And so true to his word, he was still alive when the call came, but he didn't make it the first time. So again, this is 200 BC, and they're heading cross country to this gathering, this massive gathering. I will include the information on that original past life regression. This is only the second live one I've ever done, by the way. This is a especially important message, and 12/12, an especially important day. So now, just one more thing. I will close my eyes periodically to help me envision what my guides are trying to show me through my third eye. So at no point will I go into any kind of a trance or anything like that. And I guess we'll start. So basically going to pick up where after they got across the Mississippi River, what happened after that. So I'm feeling the real urgency of this group to move as fast as possible. I'm not sure if they got a late start or they just heard late, whatever the case is, because it seemed like once they found out about it, they got on the move. So they're working against the clock to get across country on foot in time. And they're having to deal with all that wonderful northern weather, which I think they're hitting the heavy stuff right now. Yeah, I already see snow on the ground as they're still trekking. He's on the horse, wrapped up in blankets, and the other men are on furs. They definitely have furs too. And they're walking in snow every day, from probably sun up till sundown, as far as they can get. That's the goal every day. And for the most part, oh gosh, I've got to figure out his name. I've got to call him something. I don't want to call him the 100th monkey. Okay. Let me see if I can get a name real quick. I've got to come up with something to call him. Okay. I'm going to approximate the name that I'm hearing, and then I'm just going to call him something else to make it easier, because I'm not going to be able to remember how to say it. His name is something along the lines of Jeradak? Jeradak, something like that. I'm going to call him Jerry, okay? For everybody's sake. I got to call him, and I'm going to call him Jerry, because that's pretty close to what his real name was. So Jerry. And it's actually holding up pretty good, even though they're well into their cross-country trek. His spirits are high. He's really driven by how excited he is that he's going to be able to participate in this. This is just his dream. If anybody had a dream, this was it. Jerry had a dream of being there for this massive event. Like he could die peacefully after that. But so he actually was in pretty good spirits and fairly good health, considering he wasn't in the best of health to begin with. And let's see. Something happens to the horse he's on. Okay, yeah. I do think they're coming into what is now Cleveland, Ohio area. It's definitely already snowing. And they're walking kind of in single file, because especially with the snow, they have to be careful about things they can't see under the snow. Holes, branches, whatever. I really think they're very close to the shoreline of Lake Erie. And they're going along, and somehow his horse steps in a hole. It's just, you know, I don't know if it's, you'd want to call it fate, but man, right? Not that you want any of them to fall in the hole, but the horse stepped in a hole, broke its leg, and down the horse and he went. Yeah, and I see that I guess it's his left side, Jerry's left side, kind of gets crushed a bit under the horse as it kind of rolls around and whatever. They have to stop. They have to stop. And in the middle of, I don't think there were really any people around per se for them to go and, you know, ask for help or something. So they had to make a very quick, you know, little camp. And they didn't have much. They had basically what they were wearing and some very basic survival tools. They pretty much, you know, very minimal in what they brought. But now they were going to have to set up and see what they could do to help Jerry. And he, not only did they want him to get there just because he really, really was excited about this, but he was needed. He absolutely was. And we're talking about all these men actually are spiritual men. That is kind of their focus in the tribe. And all the men, there may have been women too, but it was primarily men that I saw that will ultimately be at the gathering. And I mean, there will be millions of people there. I saw this already in that other past life. So I really encourage you to go watch that. He had the equivalent of 10 men, 10 spiritual men, all in one man, as far as his vibration, and he was already so full of joy. This is probably why he was one of the main ones that needed to be there, because he was already so highly vibrating with the portal that was going to come in and the beings that were connected to that. Now, this particular group, I saw in the other past life regression, that these people were connected to the Syrians. As I mentioned earlier, there are outside beings coming in to help support this happening, and this group is directly connected to the Syrians. But here they are, next to Lake Erie, totally stopped in the snow. Even if Jerry hadn't got injured, it would have been very hard for him to even, you know, walk on his own. That would have been a problem either way. But at this point, his left side is pretty, not good. Not good. Oh, I'm feeling sorrow. Yeah, I might even cry on YouTube. This is something that happens sometimes when I'm really getting in touch with somebody else's experience, or even my own experiences. So we'll see. Don't be surprised if tears come. Anyway, what I'm getting is this man was so joyful most of the time, even before they started this trek. This is one of the happiest people, most joyous people on the planet, really. He's just an amazing soul. Absolutely, I can feel it. And he's now faced with losing the biggest dream he ever had. The one thing that he thought that whoever he believed in, as far as the universe, source, whatever, the one thing he thought for sure he would be able to experience is about to fade away. And I see him laying, they do have some sort of a tarp, something, but it's not much. There isn't really keeping out the cold, unfortunately. We've got so many blanket things on top of him, furs, as much as they could provide. And they're all standing or kneeling around him laying on the ground. And it's already been a couple days, and it's just not getting any better. In fact, he might have a fever at this point. So I can't tell if he's shivering because he's just cold, because everybody's cold, or if it's the fever. And what I'm getting is, now there's definitely snow and cold where they're from, but there's something about these lakes, the winds that come off of these lakes, that makes it, I don't know. I've never lived in that part of the country, but I just get that it's different and it's more intense. So it's not that they weren't used to the cold, but this is something else. And they all did their best. They were spiritual. They prayed. I don't know, whatever they did that they thought could help. But it wasn't. By the second day, they could see him definitely deteriorating. And they all started losing hope. I'm getting the word broken, like getting energy on the side of my head right now. Maybe he had some sort of a head injury. It's like his will is breaking. I think even in the beginning he thought, no problem, this will heal, I'm gonna be there, right? That's quite an optimist, actually. Jerry. And all of those men, I mean, they all looked up to him. He was definitely by far the oldest in the group, and they revered him. And they wanted this just as much as he did for him. I mean, they were honored to be there too, but they really wanted him to be there. Now it's the third day. I think this is when he will pass, but there must be something about how, maybe not so much how he passes, but when I see people in these moments where they get stuck. Jerry's stuck. Whoever out there, if you're watching, the one that, you'll know who I'm talking about it if it's you. You're still stuck. Whatever belief you put in place in this moment is what follows you through time and space. It's not the physical injuries, although, you can actually recreate those in this life, but the physical things that happen to us are not what necessarily follows us. It's the belief. So now his breathing is definitely getting shallow. He's just shivering. They're all shivering, but there's just nothing they can do. They can't fully keep the wind off of him or anything. I think all the men that were there that day, this is a point that they got stuck as well. Trying to see what's happening. I think he's trying to choke out a few words. I think he's telling them something along the lines of, I will be there with you in spirit. And he reaches out to who apparently is like the main person of the group, the one that wears a headdress that is definitely, it's got the buffalo horns. He actually is the one that kind of does the most significant thing at the gathering when they do get there, at least based on that first past life. And he reaches out and he touches the man's arm. Jerry reaches out and touches the man's arm, because he's clear now that he has to go. But they actually all have to go. And he's not going to make it with them. So there's an exchange of energy. Sending whatever that special thing was that he had, that was going to make him be the perfect person at that gathering to hold the energy. He passed what he could to this man, to this chief, whoever he was. And that energy flowed into him to carry on. And once that happened, really the life went out of him at that point. You could see him just like sink into the blankets. And he died right there. In fact, it seems like that was his life, or that was his life force. That special connection he had with the joy energy that was going to come into the earth. The moment that left his body, so did he. Whew. All right. Of course, the men did what they could, and then they had to keep going. But all of them were very saddened by this. And now the man that had the energy, he now knows that he will be standing in for whatever Jerry was meant to do there. He will be standing in. And what we saw in the first past life regression connected to this was he ends up having to go into the middle and be a key component in the entire process. But we know now that Jerry was the one that was meant to do that. And he was the one that had, well, the natural ability to do what needed to be done. And he held maybe the highest level of joy out of all the men that ended up being in that gathering. And he was meant to be the 100th monkey. He was the one that was going to help everybody reach that critical mass, and the anchoring would have happened with no problem in the first version had he been there. See if there's anything else about that we need to understand before I go back and look for a rewrite possibility. Anything else we need to understand about that? Good old Jerry. Because people really did revere him. And apparently for good reason. Sorry, I'm a little sniffly now. I got a little teary-eyed on that. So, okay, they may show me more when I look at the rewrite. So once I do a past life regression and I look at the highlights, then I will ask my guides to show me if there is a better outcome option, where would be the best place to intervene. And let's see where they take me now. Interesting. Okay, I kind of had a blip of this, I think, yesterday, but it didn't open up. Yes, they needed to take him on a horse. Clearly, he was in no condition to be walking. And when it was good weather, I think the arrangement was good, but it was very precarious once they got to snow or anything that covered the ground to the point where, falling in a hole or something like that was, a higher risk. Somebody suggested, who was it? Well, somebody suggested, or maybe they just thought about it. A lot of times we have thoughts and we don't express them. Somebody at least thought about, I don't know what you call those things, where you've got a horse and then you have like poles that come down behind the horse, and then there's like a litter or a stretcher that kind of drags on the ground behind him. I have no idea what that would be called. But that was one way for Jerry not to have to walk. But if something happened to the horse, it wouldn't fall right on him. Like I said, they're used to dealing with snow. Who was it that thought it and he either didn't say it or didn't? I think it might have been the chief, the one that ended up receiving the man's abilities. I think it was him. And because they were in a state, a whole other area, they really didn't know the terrain at all. They really didn't know the rocky, and I think it was rocks, because they were walking pretty close to the shoreline. That may have been what it was. All those rocks and everything were buried underneath, and so nobody knew that to expect that. I'm getting that this man might actually be the chief's grandfather. They have a close connection. Now the chief can't forgive himself for not. It crossed his mind. He underestimated the terrain and the level of danger that riding the horse actually had. So he's stuck too. He's stuck too because he sees this as his fault, really. If he had just implemented that, even if the horse still stepped in the hole or whatever, okay, at least it wouldn't have landed on him. They could have muddled along until they found another horse for him or something. So that thought was there. So the question is, what needs to happen now? And does that need to happen, or maybe something else? Oh, he did suggest it. And the grandfather actually was too proud. He wanted to be on top of the horse, like the warrior that he used to be. He did not want to be dragged behind the horse, like an invalid. Okay, so it was suggested. And I'm sure, the chief is still thinking he should have made him do it anyway. Grandfather or no grandfather, he should have ordered it. Interesting. I just hiccuped on this, and sometimes hiccups are a confirmation for me. There's something about joy and pride. Oh. Wow. That there is, when somebody is in joy, there is a risk of feeling invincible, of feeling that maybe so much optimism that you don't consider that things might not go quite as planned. But there's an actual relationship between those two ideas, or those two ways of being. Because it seemed that that was the main reason he declined anything other than riding the horse. Wow. That's an interesting connection. I would have never guessed. But that's what I'm getting. His pride. As the joy went up, so did the pride, basically. Which, obviously put him at risk. So now that we have that understanding, trying to see now what we can do with that information now. Sorry, this is taking a minute to show itself here. I feel like it is the chief that's going to have to play a power card. Because I know he really is concerned. They don't know this terrain. And he's maybe the one out of the two of them anyway that sees clearly the potential risks. Now granted, even being drugged behind the horse had risks too, but if something like this were to happen where the horse fell because of something like this, he'd be a lot safer behind him. So I do believe that the grandson, the chief, is going to have to, acknowledge that he's a great warrior. I think a little ego stroking might have been needed. And that as amazing as he is, and surely nothing will probably happen, can't possibly miss this portal. Do you really want to chance it? You've waited this long. So this is basically the conversation. He's trying to, because he's joy-wise, Jerry's through the roof right now. He could just feel that amazing energy, right? He is actually very euphoric and needs to be a little grounded. So even though he did grumble a little bit about it, I just said, relax back there, dream about the portal, whatever. Let's go. We got to make this stretcher real quick, and so they went. Now that he's in that situation, they're walking the same track. Exactly. They are trying to walk in a line so that nobody does fall in a hole. Other than the first person up front with a stick trying to, find the holes. Sorry, I just stuck my fist in everybody's face. Anyway, they're trying to be careful. Interesting. Okay. The horse is going to step in the hole. But now with the weight distributed the way it is, it's going to trip, stumble even, but he's not going to fall, and he's not going to break his leg. But he sure is going to stumble good. And everybody, because he kind of went forward, right? After that happened, even Jerry went, somehow, miraculously, this horse is still able to walk. And had I been up there, had that extra weight to have to balance up there, he knew immediately after that that's what his grandson just saved him from. And the horse. They did need that horse too. You see, the grandson, is what I'm getting right now, actually had some abilities too. And foresight was one of them. He knew there was something potentially going to happen. So Jerry had to eat a little crow, is what I'm being told. But he gladly did. He gladly did. And he, whenever they did stop, and he gave him a hug. Because they both knew that potentially could have ended everything for Jerry. And now he's going way back up into the joy thing. I mean, he was still in a good mood, but being grounded a little bit. He wasn't all that happy about that. But now they actually all continued on. Got through that snow. They didn't lose those 3 days in the snow waiting for whatever to happen to him to happen. And Jerry's, I think in a way, he's even more joyful, if it's possible, even more joyful now. Because he feels like, he was looked after by everybody. His grandson, whoever was walking with him above. Oh man, I'm seeing him at the ceremony now. Oh my gosh. Now you really need to go back and watch that other past life regression that started this whole thing. So you'll really get the level of the size of this mass gathering. There were at least 2 million Native Americans, which included up from Canada and probably from Mexico too, gathered what is in the area, what is now Boston. And I'll try to be brief to, tell you more about the portal opening up above this group. But they had called into the center of this huge circle of millions of people, men mostly, spiritual beings that had gathered specifically for this portal. And they called out the high elders. And Jerry, he was like the guest of honor, quite honestly. Everybody knew that this was his time. For 80, 85 years, this is what he lived for. And he was a huge, he walked out into the middle with all those other men, and he walked as if he was a 20-year-old with a spring in his step, because his heart was so, it was beaming. This was his moment, his 15 minutes of fame or something. Everybody stepped aside so he could walk through. This was his moment. And he never had to pass off his energy, by the way, to his grandson, at least not before. Maybe he did afterwards, but no. No, he got to keep that. He gets to keep that. Now, he never has to give it away, and the other person doesn't have to keep it. So whoever Jerry is out there, I'm looking at you right now. You're about to get your powers back. And because this is going to be healed 2,200 years ago, you're going to have 22 years of lifetimes having that ability with you. So you're going to have an even higher level of joy and happiness in your life. Now, in the other past life regression, I did rewrite it, and we did successfully bring in that portal. But I do believe that this rewrite will overlay over that and have an even higher level of upgrade. So this is big. We already did something huge yesterday by anchoring 5 different points of joy on the planet. Huge, massive portal that had never been cleared before was cleared yesterday, but Jerry good old Jerry is going to help take us to a whole nother level right now. When I rewrite it in that timeline, it will affect this timeline immediately. And joy will be rampant on this planet even higher than it was yesterday. So thank you, Jerry. You are indeed the 100th monkey. The one that takes us into the critical mass high enough to bring in that joy energy. But this energy lift is actually lifting us even closer to this 1212 portal, which we had quite a distance, and I'm not sure. We can check in after this. This may actually be what we need to clear it already and not have to wait another day or two to get to that point. Jerry's a powerhouse. So, oh yeah, Jerry's out there. Jerry's out there. Oh my gosh. He's not just in the circle, because the high elders are all out there in the circle, and they're facing outwards towards all the other men encircling them, millions of people. He's actually standing in the middle of that circle. There was nobody in the middle of that circle in the first past life regression yesterday. This is different already. Jerry was the focal point. No wonder we couldn't reach it the first time it happened. We didn't have our focal point. Well, now we do. Okay, Jerry, this is your time. So now I'm watching him. He's not just out there with the other men. He's stepping into the center. And all the other men standing around him facing. And they are starting to intone back and forth with people in the outer circle, with the inner circle. And Jerry's in the middle chanting something. And I can feel the energy shift already. I can feel it right now. It's almost like, let's say, a vibrational bowl. I don't know. This is different. And there are beings above them working with them through this, holding the vibration, I can definitely see the big green orb again that was viewed in the first one coming down. This big green orb and or portal that's coming down. Oh my gosh. I'll tell you what I just got. Jerry is the portal. Why it came down even easier in this rewrite was because Jerry, it was almost like Jerry was calling in himself. He was some sort of a physical manifestation of this joy, of this portal. The only one vibrating high enough to help fully anchor it in at the level that it's going to anchor in now, even bigger than it was before. Wow. This is going to shift the whole planet. That first rewrite absolutely did too, but this is a whole nother level of integration of joy on the planet. Instead of having only Boston and only the 4 other places on the planet that were doing that ceremony at the same time, I'm seeing the entire planet turn green. It's like the entire planet is the orb now. It's holding that level of vibration everywhere. We couldn't get that level without Jerry. Not even close. I mean, we did amazing things again with the rewrite, and it shifted everything yesterday, but this is a whole nother level. whole nother level of joy. Wow. And it's coming down through him, over him. It's just going straight into the earth, and all the other places around the earth are also doing something similar, but this is engulfing the whole earth. Wow. Getting the 12-toe portal is going to be something even bigger than this. This needed to be at this level, apparently. I'm just going to go ahead and officially rewrite this. The entire planet becoming an orb of joy. The entire planet Earth right now, 2,200 years ago, and it's happening right now as well. Ooh, I'm starting to feel it. You may be feeling it too, no matter what time you watch this. Yesterday, in that past life regression, I was given a message that I didn't fully understand until, well, actually now. They had told me yesterday that trek across the United States going to Boston was like a reversed Trail of Tears, which I didn't fully understand. I did get the sense that maybe it's just like, instead of trekking across country in sorrow and horrible conditions and whatever, being pulled out of your land, that this was like going back. And now I think that is what the case is. Now that, especially, this wasn't fully true yesterday, so this is based on this new hope that's just come in. This new level of a global portal, a global joy. By the way, green is the color. It's another reason why I chose a shirt that does have green in it. I have a green candle over here. And if you didn't know, yeah, Happy Buddha over here, he represents prosperity, but I got him specifically because he represents joy. And I got him about a month ago. So, could it be that with the energy this high on this planet, the Native Americans are going home? Maybe land is giving back something about moving into, well, I don't know what their term for it would be, but, well, one, getting back what they lost, what was taken from them unfairly. But it has a going home feeling to it. So who knows? Maybe we'll find out something soon, that there's some sort of an act put in place that allows them to return. I don't know. We'll see. But this is, Jerry has taken it to a whole nother level now of joy on this planet. And it is rewritten now. I have officially done that. Wow. Well, 100th monkey has arrived, and it has shifted everything. The entire collective has flipped, thanks to Jerry and all the other 99 monkeys that were a part of that collective, okay, I'm stumbling now. Critical mass, I'm sorry. The critical mass. Now, I'm not saying there were the only 100 people involved with that. again, the 100th monkey just means you've finally reached enough collective energy to turn and flip the entire collective. So I have to say thank you to everybody, whether you know you're a part of that 100 or not. You did it. It didn't quite go the way it was planned, but it's done. It's done back then, and it's done now. And Jerry did what he came to do, what he was born to do. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, thank you, thank you to everybody. So again, if you have any more interest in past life regressions, either to watch some of my previous videos or to get your own individual or even a group past life regression done by me, you can go to rewritingtheverse.com, and that's where you can find everything you need to know about me. If you like this, and certainly if you want to see more live past life regressions, I do encourage you to share, click thumbs up, and subscribe. Especially, this is now the third one I've done this week for 12/12, and well, 12/12 is not here yet, so who knows? If you subscribe, you'll know when I come out with my next video. So I hope to see you soon, and peace and joy to everybody. Bye-bye.